Hello everyone, I'm back with another video. I hope everyone is having a great day today so far. And today I wanted to talk about something that I don't think I ever really went into too much detail about, and that is how I actually journal and how it helps me to stay organized and strategize for the upcoming week or the month. I don't think I ever talked about it. I think in passing when I'm flipping through my journaling section in the back, I would say, oh, this is what I basically write in the back. Um, but I don't think I've ever like done a breakdown to show you exactly what I write and how I use my journaling section. Before I start, I think it's really important to do a quick introduction of myself, just so you can kind of understand what my life is like. And this is what I do in my journaling to help my life be a little bit easier to manage. So I am a mom of two, first of all, two little boys, two under six, and I homeschool. So the youngest one is 18 months, so he's not being homeschooled. He just stays with us the whole day. Um, the 6-year-old, we are homeschooling, so he does lessons and all of that. I teach him, I'm the teacher. And he does have daily activities that he goes to, but most of the time he is with us. And my husband drives him to all his activities. So he's with us basically 24/7. So I'm homeschool mom of two boys, two little boys, and I also have a company called Sterling Inc., as the channel name suggests here. So Sterling Inc. is a stationery product brand, and we have two different types of products. One is planners, notebooks, and loose leaf inserts, that sort of thing. And the other side of this is what you can see here, all of these floral and illustrated monthly subscription. So I am the artist behind all of these artwork that you see, all of these drawings. All of that is done by me by hand, and we create a different collection every single month. Planners that you see here was also created by me. So my life is very, very hectic and it's very, very busy. And on top of that, I also have, my own personal hobbies besides what I do for work, because my work is my hobby. And I feel really fortunate, but I also have other hobbies. I have loads of hobbies. I want to just show you guys how I journal and what if it's my journaling system, right? I just never talked about it, so I want to get into it. Okay, so like I said, this is the common planner that I'm using. It's for the 2025 version, and this is B6. Just want to get that out of the way because I know people will be asking. This cover color is forest, which is green. The cover is PU leather, and the front section is a vertical format, vertical weekly format calendar type of planner. And then the back section is just blank pages, 367 pages of blank pages with notes, page number. And I use the back section for my journaling. I don't journal daily, but I do it as needed pretty often throughout the month. I use up about 25 to 30 pages of blank pages in the back. I pre-decorate these pages so they're ready to go, and that's one key. I know a lot of people say they can't, seem to stay consistent with journaling. Number one thing I would recommend is to pre-decorate it like this. It takes about 1 hour for me for the entire month. That's pretty good, and everything is set up ready for me to dive in, just right. I don't have to think about what my page is going to look like, and it's so much more fun to journal in a place that's already been decorated than just blank pages. I know it just depends on your preference, but it just serves as a landmark, and this interactive moments that I have in the journal is really fun as I'm journaling, and also for me when I'm flipping through them. And it just serves as a landmark, like I said, so I can kind of remember, oh yeah, I wrote this on that page that looked like that. Instead of just having 367 pages of just the writing all over, over and over again. And again, that's preference, but for me, that really, really works for me. And I also recommend that to people who don't know how to get started and who can't stay consistent. I've gotten so much feedback from our customers that pre-decorating really, really, really helps them to stay consistent. And if you're not sure where to start with pre-decorating, I have so many videos going through how I actually pre-decorate my monthly sections. I do it with you. So make sure to go check that out. I will link the playlist up here if I can do the playlist. If not, I will just link one video so you can kind of get a sense of what that looks like. Okay, so now finally, let's go into this journal. It's a journal entry from March 23rd, Sunday. And I'll show you how this goes from, oh, well, okay, let me show you. It was actually 5 pages worth of, 5.5 pages of journaling and how that turns into this. So that's my process. Okay, so I'm going to zoom into certain sections as I'm talking through them so you can see a little bit better. I write in script, so it might be a little bit harder to read, but this is the way. This is also something else I recommend to write in script because you can write so much faster and you can get your ideas down on paper much quicker. So I recommend that. And it just takes a little practice to make it look reasonably acceptable. I think my script writing is not the best, but it, it passes the smell test. I think it looks okay. All right. So whenever the first section I'm going to talk about is how I start the entry, because pretty much all the time when I sit down and journal, I don't know what I'm going to write about most of the time. So this is for those of you who are like, well, I don't know what to write. So, um, and basically, I would recommend you just write down whatever thought just came across your head. Maybe it's, I don't know what to write, or maybe I'm eating a piece of cookie, or hey, this tea is pretty good. I love this pen. Whatever it is, it can be something really stupid. It doesn't really matter. There's no such thing as stupid in your journal because nobody's going to read it except for you guys who are going to be reading my entry right here. But there's no such thing as stupid in your journal. You can write about anything. You can write about the smell of the room. You can write about what you're excited about. Maybe something's coming in the mail, something you ordered through the mail. Maybe it could be diapers you just ordered, whatever. But the important thing is just to write down whatever, literally, and the magic happens afterwards. You'll see. So when I started here, I had just sort of almost finished my June collection. Right now it's March 23rd. I'm working on the June collection. I already finished it at the time of filming right now, but when I was writing this journal, I was approaching finishing. So it was a huge relief for me. So I was writing just saying, I can see the light with this collection. So happy to be so close to closing this chapter. Okay, so next is lessons learned from before. Cut the time shorter since it can take as long as I want. So the strategy worked. 10-day streak on the Peloton and maybe 18, I think it was actually 18 days streak in total because I didn't start it until like 8 days in. So that's why it's different. Then next is basically just take out all the bad habits with reading to keep me from doing the bad habits. I'm so into If Traveler, that's the book that I'm reading. And so this is kind of like how I started the journal. Then I wrote transferring, hope for more, for whatever. This color looks so great. So that's another example of like just me rambling. This color looks so great. It's my fountain pen color that I mixed myself. It's sort of this dark olive green. I really like it. It's a muted olive green. There you go. Excited to be able to get back into my sketchbook again. Mantra I repeat to myself. It's impossible for you to mess this drawing up. So that's the mantra I repeat to myself when I'm drawing. Be confident and see where it leads you. So that's the mantra that I wrote. Actually, I should probably just I should probably highlight that so I can see it. Okay. I'm basically just rambling on about things that don't really matter, just like kind of writing down my mental state and the like close by things that's happening. But then this is like the actual meat of this journal that I'll show you. Everyone, this is editing Catherine here. I really apologize for that static noise in the background. I got too excited to record this video and I forgot to check my mic as I was recording, so I'm really sorry about that. I'll definitely take note of that for the next video. Thank you so much. So then I kind of wrote down everything, and then what appeared in my head is that I wanted to write my priority goals, priority and what I want to focus on. And since I'm almost done with the June collection at this time, I wanted to see what's coming up next. What am I excited about? So this is kind of the form that my journal took shape. My priority goals are something else I want to mention. Something else I also want to mention is that I'm a really, really rambly person. This is something that I recently kind of uh, realized about myself is that I'm unable to come up with a list right away. If you ask me, I don't know, maybe a lot of people are like this, but if you ask me, oh, what are the 5 things you like about this? And I'll be like, what? I don't know. What are your top favorite movie? I'm like, I don't know. What's your favorite book? Um, I do have an answer for that. It's The Little Prince. But if you ask me about other books that I like, there are so many. I'm like, wait, all of a sudden I don't remember any of them. So I'm just like a really rambly person. I have to ramble and spiral in order to figure out, oh, this is what I'm thinking. So this is just a process for me to kind of get to the point of things. And you don't have to annoy anybody. You can just keep on rambling, 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 and then figure out what you want to actually say. And that's the purpose of this journal. So now I'm finally getting to my priority goals. So this one is, so number one is like work stuff, and I kind of knew what that was, so I just like wrote that anyway, so it's there. Two is work out and become more fit and blah 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 blah. Okay, that's good. I already know that. Three is reading. So now it gets a little bit more interesting. So I wrote the number three is like reading. That's my priority. So by the way, as I'm writing this down, I didn't even know these like what the priorities are, like in what order. I know what the priorities are, but like I don't know in what order are they important. So this is sort of my way of like working through it. So number three is reading. I knew I wanted to read way more, and that actually trumps a lot of the other um, goals that I have. So reading, and then I wrote, oh, need to do a inventory check of all of my physical TBR. TBR just stands for to be read, which means the books that you haven't read on your shelf that you're ready to read. So that's the TBR list, and also the digital books. So and then so this is something that it's an actionable item, right? So it's something that I need to do. Then I just put a box in the front of it instead of writing that on a to-do list. This is Editing Catherine again. I just wanted to mention that the method I'm using here doesn't have to apply to a priority goal list. You can add a checkbox or any of these symbols that I will be mentioning in the front of anything that you're journaling about. It really doesn't have to be a priority goal list. I just happened to be sitting down to do this list, and this is the example that I'm showing. But I just put a box in the front for now as a placeholder. Then the next is should be able to do it on Wednesday. So that was the day I was expected to be done with my collection. So I knew that I would be a little bit more free to be doing something like this because it will take some time. So I wrote that take a picture of my bookshelves and put it on Notion. So as in like make a list on Notion. So that's another actionable item. So I put another box in it. I don't just group that into one thing. It's important to break it down into smaller chunks. So that became another actionable item. Then goal is to work out the number of how many books that I have and then come up with a plan of that, and then split it into fiction and nonfiction. So that's another actionable item. And then in the front of the goal, I put an asterisk in the front because that becomes like sort of like this is an important point. Like this is the goal, this is the highlight, this is the important point that I want to remember. Goal is to kind of count down how many books that I have and then just come up with a strategy of like how I want to get through those books, because at the speed I'm reading right now, it's not going to work, and I need a better strategy. I need to read faster, and then need to figure out like what's the priority, like which books I want to get through first and get through them first. So that became asterisk. This became split fiction, nonfiction, whatever. Then print the list and put it into my personal ring binder, which is this one. This, by the way, if you don't know what this is, it's a personal ring binder that I've had this is a system I had for 7 years now. Basically, it has no data pages. It's just full of blank pages like this. It's a notebook that's in a ring binder, basically. So all of these inserts are from our shop. I just have lined insert and also grid insert like this, and it's this whole book is like that, and I've split it into sections of just like different sections of my life, and it becomes this little archive. think of it as a hard drive with folders of my life, and then it's a physical, hard drive of the things that I think are important and I want to look through. It can hold ideas, or it can hold plans. It can hold like this, a list of my books, and things like that. Hobby related stuff, everything is in there. Basically, just think of it as your brain. Whatever your head is like, just make that kind of similar to it. And this is just a good way for me to park stuff so I can flip through things and actually see my ideas physically. So I can remember, oh yeah, I remember I was thinking about that, instead of having everything stored in your head, which is not very reliable, and it's also tiresome because then you're constantly trying to remember things. Whereas this can kind of offload a little bit of that stress. So I just basically wrote that I'm going to transfer that to Ring Binder, and for checking off the list. I prefer analog, working in the analog, but I do see the benefit of having it in a digital system, because it can help you to like count things and like all that stuff. So that's what I wrote. Write a note to update Notion as needed. So periodically I want to update the Notion based on what I checked off. Um, but should be pretty easy since I don't read that quickly. So that's fine. The next one is my closet. I'm not going to go too much into it. Basically, I'm trying to like purge stuff and make it a little bit more, less clothes, but more hobby storage, like my notebooks, my art, like art supplies and all that stuff. And then potentially want to explore making a little 3D rug for the little kids. So I wanted to make up, I mean, if you know what 3D rugs are, you know what it is. I used to, I made a little rug when I was very little, like maybe 13 years old. I still have it. It's so cute. So I wanted to maybe make it a little bit more creative with like 3D. Maybe it can have like, it can be like a little landscape with like a little farmhouse or something. So that they can like play house or something. I don't know, with the little animals. So that's what I was thinking of. And I just put like a triangle here. Triangle just means like idea, important, like don't forget, like go back to this and see what that was about. So as you can see, as I'm journaling, I'm not like writing the list on a separate thing, like, oh, wait, that's important. I'm not writing it on a different piece of paper. I just continue. But instead, I just put a little um, like icon in the front so I can remember what that was. And then number 5 is craft and experiment. So this is related to homeschooling. So my son, like all kids, they love craft. Kids love craft, and doing science experiments and stuff like that. So we have these like little packets of craft that I got with his homeschool curriculum. And so we just need to work through those. They're so cute. They're corresponding to literature that they read. So it's just like a really nice, neat little thing. So I want to first work through all of that, but then also come up with like a binder of ideas for future crafts. So for this is something that I might show in the future. I don't know, but like basically for the different things in my life that kind of that are kind of significant, I would make something similar to this, a binder in various different sizes. And it's basically just think of it as a three ring binder, but a little bit more fancy because it's in this nice little cover with 6 rings. So for example, this is for my personal brand, right? But for homeschooling, I also want to we're just starting out with homeschooling. He's in kindergarten, he's moving on to 1st grade. So starting from 1st grade, I want to be a little bit more, um, or even more organized than what I'm doing right now. Right now, we're just kind of like feeling and then just like gradually getting into it. But starting from 1st grade, I already have it, but like I'm gonna use it a little bit more. I will have like A5 size binder like this, and that's gonna hold all the ideas, like resources, past records, and things like that. So that's what I'm talking about here. I want to also create a binder of ideas for future crafts. So if I see something on Pinterest that looks great, I'm going to print that out and put it in there, just so I can like flip through it later and I can see it. I just don't do well with digital stuff. I just prefer not to even touch my computer if I'm not working. I don't even use my iPad besides drawing. So I'm not a, I don't like to be in the digital space. It's helpful for some things, but I just prefer not to. So I'm going to print that out, make a binder of it. And this way, it's also good to work with my kids because they can flip through it and then see, oh, this is what I want to do, instead of like going on the computer to get in the habit of looking at the computer for ideas, this is just like a good way to bring it down into, the analog. Number 6, this is regarding my husband. So that's a note, the actionable item for him. That's for him to do. So I need to pass that onto his list that I have. Drawings. So number 7 is drawing. So you can see the priority is like drawings came down to 7. I thought it was much higher than that before. That's why it's important to do this kind of list. I actually create this kind of list quite often, and it's really relaxing for me to be doing this. This is something that I really enjoy. So number 7 is drawing. And by the way, I'm just going through this line by line just to show you exactly what I wrote, so that it can be a little bit more helpful for you to see, like, what is she actually writing about instead of just like flipping through it. So drawing, and I'll show you how this gets dumped into a different place. So drawings, sketchbook, loosen up and don't be afraid of making ugly art. And it's impossible to make ugly or messy art. I just have to be a little bit more confident and be less like, you know, picky and stuff like that. Adopt Sterling's spirit. That's my son. My son's name is Sterling. So adopt his spirit of just like breathing art. He basically just like sits down and start creating art. He doesn't think too much about it. And I love that. So this is me getting more loose and I really, really like it. Maybe I can try getting even more loose than that. So don't overthink. So stars are like the things that I should just like note to that. Those are the things I should tell myself all the time. Reminders and things like that. Ideas, reminders. Most of the time stars are for things that I should tell myself. That's the sign for that. Number 8, study. So study is, so I think this is just a bit of like more reading, but like reading nonfiction is more of the studying. So like I am interested in doing like reading more about history, science, economics, business, and things like that. So those are more like serious stuff instead of like I don't consider reading literature necessarily studying. Literature is more about self-reflection and like maybe like pockets of wisdom. I don't consider that studying. Studying is more about, learning actual like facts. Like for example, history, like what events actually took place, just things that kind of shape that can help me to understand a little bit better the world around me. And one of the big projects that I have is learning about big history. It's just like from the start to now, like how the Earth formed, how the solar system formed, and like what happened on Earth, how did the organisms came to be, and things like that. So that's part of this, and I just wrote, just go with the flow, because a lot of times I try to be a little bit too perfect and I write neat little notes, but then that's not how I really should study. Like my idea about studying has changed so much since we started homeschooling and also reading about more like homeschooling related books, and also observing how my kid actually learns. It has changed so much about how I should learn, how I should approach learning and learning efficiently. So it's just like a little note about what I should tell myself. So for example, doesn't have to be perfect. And what matters is actually absorbing the info and not to have a neat little perfect record, because I'm not going back to read the record. Writing is just about kind of the act of writing helps me to remember things. So that's why I'm writing stuff down, not to go back and actually read what I wrote. So that's something that I am actually need to remind myself. So yeah, here I wrote the act of writing is about like helping to remember and absorb things. And this is the reason I wrote star, star, star. So that's the thing I should remember. So no need to be pretty. And number 9 is giving myself time to do the side things. So that's a priority for me because a lot of times I have this little voice inside my head saying, oh, you shouldn't be reading this book right now when you have this project due. You should be working on this instead of, taking the time to do my side things, the things that I like to do, but that's not really like related to work or my kids or anything, just like something that I do just for myself. I should be able to do that even when I'm busy, just to take a little moment to do that. I think ever since I was little, there was always that little voice in my head saying, "Oh, you shouldn't be doing that." Like that's why like I loved reading when I was little, but I always felt like, no, I shouldn't be reading for pleasure when I have schoolwork to do. Maybe I should take this time to actually like review the schoolwork. But then it's just like you keep on pushing, pushing, pushing. In college, I don't think I read a single book outside of schoolwork because I felt like, no, I should be reading the school reading instead of doing my personal reading. So stuff like that. And that carries out even till today. So just this year, I feel like I'm starting to actually make an effort to take out the time to be like, okay, I'm finishing work at this time. I work for myself, so it's really hard to actually have a sharp cutoff. A lot of times I'm like pretty much like I work every single day, and every day I work until I go to sleep, basically. But this year, and especially this month, I have made the point of actually having a strict cutoff time. Like I'm only gonna work till this time, and I'm gonna leave like maybe an hour before sleep to do whatever I want. So things like that. And another thing I'm repeating to myself is do it now, which is like don't push it to whatever it is. If you need to do something, just do it now. And it's not about like doing useless stuff. Like when I think of useless things, it's like um scrolling or like not there's no value. Like sometimes scrolling is helpful for me because I actually get ideas, get inspiration, but sometimes I do find myself kind of going down the rabbit hole, even though I am much better at recognizing those times and like um avoiding that trap. But doing now is basically, if there is something that you need to get done, like clean up certain areas, then just like do it now quickly. Take 5 minutes and do it now instead of pushing it. It just helps me, the later me, better. Self-watering activities, reading, sketching. So these are the things I love to do. So reading, sketching, and just like see the color bloom and blend. Writing, workout, even though I don't love it, I have to do it. So that's something that's for myself. Studying and also writing down like the stuff that I want to learn. So languages, history, science, big history, things like that. So writing, and it's about oh, I already wrote that like twice. So sex, self-expressing, and over here, the easiest one to do is reading because I don't have to take out anything. It's just one book. I can do it anytime. And so I just wrote, so use this to kind of replace a lot of the bad habits instead of doing those bad habits. For example, like I snack a lot. And that's a problem. So instead of snacking, I want to do reading because I love reading. So it's just like replacing one thing with another. Trying that out. It's helping me a lot and I really like it. So this upcoming week, there's just like a little bit more writing about this is like more of the sort of like immediate to do that's upcoming. So you can see that my brain is sort of like wandering, wandering, wandering. At first, it's just like wandering about nothing, and then kind of starting to make a list, priority list. This is something that I do whenever I don't know what to write about, then I just start doing this because I love doing this. And I think it is important to constantly make this list. And one, it reminds you what's actually important. And two, you can kind of see it's cool to see your priority changing. Three, it's also cool to see like, oh, there were like some little ideas that you had regarding some priority sections. So for example, like this craft thing, I reminded myself I have to make that craft binder. For reading, I reminded myself I have to make a physical TBR list. So it's not just about writing the priority, but like making a list and then kind of remembering, oh yeah, that was something that I wanted to do for that section. And at the end, you can see that my brain is kind of getting a little bit more focused and then zeroing in on exactly what I have to do in the upcoming like week, the important stuff. So this is what I write, and this really helps me out because, like I said, I'm just very rambly and I can't really kind of condense things down right away. So after I did this like late at night, right before I slept. So I didn't do I didn't do anything with this list. I just like left it as is. Then the next day, oh, actually not the next day, on Wednesday, as you can see here, Wednesday, March 26th, that was my intention. I wanted to on Wednesday kind of come back to look at this list and consolidate that and then make it into a more organized list for me to look at. So I just went through the list again that I wrote, um, specifically at the symbols in the front to isolate out. So the symbols such as like the checkbox or like ideas or whatever. So taking those out and transferring it over here. And at this point, I think in the planner community, a lot of times people are like, well, why are you writing that? Oh, that's just like copying it down in another book. Um, Actually, I don't agree with that because when you're studying, like I know a lot of people, I didn't do this, I didn't personally do this, but like a lot of people, the way they study, the method is to write down your notes, then read your notes, and then consolidate it into a more neat little note, like a list of notes. And then you keep on condensing it until it's like you're so familiar with the topic. And before your test, you can just look at like a little sheet of information and you're able to recall that. And I think you should treat your life exactly the same way. It's not about reducing the amount of time that you rewrite something. The act of writing actually helps you to understand what you have to do, like in terms of like when I talk about what I do here, right? So even though I wrote this, I'm not going to remember exactly what I wrote 3 days later. And coming back every time to look at this to try to find the information is very difficult because I wrote this in such a rambling notion. So for example, if you're reading a nonfiction book, let's just say, is it better to look through the book again to find your information, or is it easier to kind of look at your condensed notes to find out exactly what information you're looking for? Of course, it's the latter. So this is what I'm doing right here. So this is a way for me to kind of pull out the stuff that I want to kind of see like on paper. Then I organize that later over here. So I read the list, and on the left-hand side is more of to-dos, and I just highlighted the different sections. So this is regarding, the reading. So the big project I had this week is just to make a list of physical and digital reading list, TBR, and I just wrote more notes of like what I wrote there. And if I had additional notes, then I also write it here that I think of, and I just highlighted it to make it a nice little section. The next one is regarding my closet. So I wrote that into a nice, neat little list. So that was over here. It's much harder to read this than to see exactly what's here. And then um, yeah, so there's like a lot about her. So this is like homeschool. So I made a list for that based on like what I wrote here. A lot of times I do expand upon what's there. So it's an idea that I had, then I expand upon that. And then here I made a thing of my idea. So this was more like to do. This is idea. So as I'm taking the notes, I just decided to split it this way. So I just started taking notes here of the to-do list. The ideas, for example, that the 3D rug is here. So I'm like, I've seen in the planner community that a lot of people say, oh, like the brain dump becomes sort of like a black hole, or like you can't find the information that you actually need. And that's when like this is what I do to actually make this obsolete, right? Like I shouldn't have to try to dig for information in my brain dump. That's not the purpose of brain dump. This is my journal and also brain dump, right? So the idea is to get stuff out and then put them into its proper location, filter out the useless stuff, and just that's what I'm talking about. So this is the idea that I had. That was a 3D rug. So if I just go back, I'm never going to remember where I wrote that 3D rug thing, or I'm not even going to remember that I wanted to do that. But here, I'm just writing it out here. And then craft. This is just, I separated, this is also to do, but I separated it out because it's regarding my kids. So that's a different section. So I wrote it here. I basically just took down the notes and, you know, again, expanding upon those ideas. And then these are the stars. So like the star items. So for example, things I want to repeat to myself. So for example, when I'm reading, don't be afraid of making ugly art. In studying, don't have to make it perfect. Writing makes me remember, not perfect record. Ignore the little voice of like you have to do, you shouldn't be doing the side things, and then do it now. So this is like a nice little reminder. So I wrote it again. And again, as I'm writing this and as I'm reading this now, it was really helpful to kind of remind myself again what that was about. So this list was made, and then this is not the end of it, because again, this is still a black hole at the end of the day. These things need to be moved to its appropriate places. For example, the to-dos, right? If it's a short item that I can finish right away, then that will get transferred to my to-do list on the weekly. So like, for example, like, that's not a good example. So let's just go to the front. So I write my to-do list up top, or it depends on what the layout is like, but I just write the to-do list on under the date, right? So if it's a short item that I can do, for example, making a physical list, then I will just transfer that to whichever week that I want to do it. If it's something that's going to take the entire week to do, then I'm going to write it under my wish list for that week. So like my wish list, these are the things I want to get done that week. Instead of writing it, repeating it every single day, I just write a ginormous list for the entire week, right? If it's something that's a longer term project, then that gets transferred into this, because this is for stuff that's like long term. This is stuff for this section is stuff for the long term. I mean, for the week. This is to-do list for the day. So that's kind of how it's divided. And basically, I'm just saying that the to-do list will get transferred to whichever appropriate section that it needs to go to. So here is for the kids, right? This is more like a homeschool thing. Then that will get transferred into my homeschool section here. So the difference between the homeschool section here and the homeschool section for like the big binder that I am using is that that's a like more of resources and stuff, and this is more like quick ideas and things I should remind myself to do. So stuff like this. Don't be afraid to like these notes. I also have a section in the front, like things I tell myself. So that's kind of where it's gonna get transferred to. And 3D rug, that's gonna go into like my craft project in here. So then what I'm trying to say is I really shouldn't have to go back here to dig for stuff. I shouldn't even have to look through here to dig for stuff. Everything should be in their appropriate places. If it's long term, it goes into my personal binder. That's my brain. I park it neatly into a folder. So later when I say, oh, I feel like I have some time for a craft project. Oh, what was that project that I wanted to work on? Then I write it here. If it's a weekly to-do that I know that I can get something done, then I will write it down in the weekly, like one list for that entire week. If it's a daily, like really quick, then I'll drop it into the day. I hope that makes sense. I wanted to just kind of talk about that. And in addition to this, I feel like another thing that is really helpful is to have sticky notes with you at all times. So I think you know, for people who keep a lot of different books, one thing that is always a problem is, well, I don't like, how do I keep track of all these books, right? And the important thing for me is to not be working in multiple books at the same time. Just focus on one book, get your ideas down, and then place it into its appropriate places. That way, you're not like trying to keep up with all the books at the same time. And a lot of times, if I'm trying to immediately, like, for example, as I'm journaling, I wrote, oh, yeah, I have to do this for the kids. And if I stop the journaling and go into my binder and write down that information, I would have forgotten all of my train of thought for all of the other things that were to come later. So then I think the most valuable thing for me is my ideas in my head, right? As the ideas are flowing, I do not want to stop that. So just continue your train of thought, continue finish it. Even writing a list like this, I would not be able to come up with a neat little list like this just right away. That's impossible, which is why I have to go through a journaling process to come up with that list. It's a must to go through this in order to come up with this. Because the nice thing about journaling is that I can ramble, just that I can talk about one thing and then jump to another thing, come back to the third thing, and then go back. That's how my brain works. And I think that's how a lot of people think. But if I were to do this, I'm gonna just like, I'm trying to write a list here and oh wait, all of a sudden I have another idea. Then I might write it somewhere else and then I lose my train of thought. Instead, over here, I'm just like writing as if recording directly what my brain is thinking. And then later I come and then reorganize this, expand upon that, and then put it into its appropriate places. So yeah, so that's what I wanted to talk about. And this is really helpful also because I mentioned before that I was recently hired as my own executive assistant. I'm also the executive assistant to my husband, to my kids. I'm the manager of their education. So it's like I'm keeping track of a lot of things. And I thought a good analogy for this is like imagine I'm having a meeting with my executive assistant, right? Which is also me. And I'm just, it's like having a meeting and just talking about rambly different things. And then, so that's like a recording of the meeting, right? Like literally word by word. And then me as my own executive assistant would revisit that recording of the meeting and then writing down a nice little list of what I actually wrote down. Then like if something needs to be filed away, it gets filed away. If something is not so useful, it's dumped out. If something needs to be researched upon, I go expand it. So that's an analogy for that. So yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about as someone who has a very, very busy life. I take on too much sometimes, but I love it. And just like I wanted to kind of share a little bit of how I use my journaling section to help me with my, life to stay a little bit more organized, stay a little bit more sane, and not to drop balls. And yeah, that's another good point, the dropping balls. Doing this prevents me from dropping balls. And this is something that I have kind of established. This habit is something that I have established since starting the business, since having kids. I realized that there's sometimes a lot of times I had to drop some balls because I just don't have time. But this actually helps me to at least know there are balls that I dropped and they will come back later and I'll take care of those things. So it's I think this is an exercise that is very, very helpful for me. So I hope this video was helpful for people who are just always wondering, well, what do you write? Like, why do you write so much? What's there to write? Like, my life is so boring. I don't think anybody's life is boring. If you listen to someone talk about their life, I don't think there's a single life that's boring. There's always something. So just start writing and then see what's actually in your head. Maybe you don't even know. So, well, for me, I definitely didn't know exactly what I wanted in life until I started journaling, started making lists, and started like really going inwards and then like exploring who am I? What do I like? What am I about? What is my dream? And stuff like that. So I hope this video was helpful for you, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.